Chosen ones, what I'm about to reveal may surprise you, even shock you. If you're here watching this right now, it's no coincidence. You've been guided here by divine forces. You felt their attacks in the dark, their whispers sowing doubt where faith should live. You wonder if your fear was your fault, if your trembling heart was a sign of weakness. But those days of second-guessing are ending now. They thought they could keep you small, but hidden truths are cracking open. Tonight, you will see how every shadow that haunted you has been lining up to serve your awakening. If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. And remember, once you see the power they never wanted you to claim, you will never walk the same way again. Mastery over demons. Have you ever lain awake, heart pounding as unseen forces pressed in from every side, whispering that you were too weak, too broken to stand? You know that weight. The cold shiver when a shadow shifts in the corner of your eye, the knot in your stomach when fear feels like your constant companion. You are not alone in this midnight struggle. Millions have walked paths darkened by doubt and intimidation, but tonight something shifts. Hidden currents of power begin to stir beneath the surface of your spirit, echoing ancient promises that have long been buried by fear. In the next moments, you will discover truths they never wanted you to unearth, origins of your authority that transcend every curse thrown your way, and forgotten echoes of your own divine heritage calling you back to full sovereignty. Remember the mornings you hesitated at the edge of your bed, wondering if today would bring another blow, another betrayal by friends you trusted, or another moment when the world turned cold and distant. Have you felt the sting in your chest when words meant to uplift instead cut you to the quick, leaving you gasping for meaning? Those moments of confusion, when your soul reached out for something solid but found only the shifting sands of broken promises, have been part of a larger narrative. Each wound, each tear, each question has been chiseled into you as preparation. You weren't abandoned in your pain. You were being schooled in the art of unbreakable resolve. Then comes a turning point, like a spark igniting in the dark. Consider the story of Jehoshaphat in 2 Chronicles 20, where a king faced with impossible odds stood silent until the Spirit prompted him to sing. In that moment of stillness, his enemies began to crumble before a melody of faith. Your own life has mirrored that sacred pause, when you stopped struggling and started trusting a power beyond your own. Suddenly, the very chains meant to bind you rattled and fell away. That trial you endured was never random. It was a divine invitation to ascend, to see that every hand raised against you was forming the very steps you needed to rise higher. As you step into this new season, look for the signs scattered across your days. The phone call from an old friend who brings exactly the word you need, the billboard with a scripture you had just whispered in prayer, the sudden clarity in your dreams that reads like a map to your next breakthrough. You may notice moments when fear dissolves into calm at the sight of sunrise, or when your voice carries strength you didn't know you had. These are not coincidences. They are markers of transformation. Like a caterpillar sensing its wings beneath the cocoon, you begin to feel the stirrings of a deeper metamorphosis, where every loss and every tear is in the alchemy turning your heart into pure, resilient gold. Behind the curtain of your daily life, unseen hands weave threads of grace into your story. Your struggles were never meant to test the limits of your endurance. They were blueprints for your elevation. Picture your journey as an ancient celestial map, each trial a constellation marking your path toward divine purpose. In the hush of pre-dawn hours, when the world sleeps, prophetic whispers chart your course, and coded dreams unlock secrets you thought lost. Faith becomes more than belief. It becomes a living architect of reality, rearranging circumstances and opening doors no one else can see. This is the work of a power that moves mountains in the silence of your own soul. Yet even knowing these wonders, many hesitate at the edge of full surrender. Fear of the unknown whispers that sticking with what you know, however painful, feels safe in stepping into the vastness of your calling. But true alignment demands a wholehearted yes. Imagine standing before a sacred mirror, not to critique your reflection, but to celebrate the divine spark that glows in your eyes. When you speak your commitment aloud, embracing every shift, every sign, every surge of newfound strength, you cross a threshold. This is your soul's moment of choice. Will you remain a spectator to your own story, or will you claim the author's pen? Now is the hour to rise. Cast off the last strands of doubt like old robes you no longer need. Lift your chin to the horizon and feel the steady pulse of power in your chest. The same pulse that once beat in David before he faced Goliath, multiplied by the fierce conviction of every soul who dared to stand when no army stood with them. Embrace your mantle as a warrior, not in spite of your scars, but because of them. Speak your next steps into being, a prayer, a declaration, a single intentional act that echoes through every realm of your life. This is your charge, to walk forward unafraid, knowing the ground itself has been prepared for your arrival. And as you step into this new dawn, remember that mastery over what once controlled you is more than a victory. It is the dawn of a divine era in your life. The forces that watch you fall now watch you rise, and they tremble at the power you wield with love, faith, and unwavering purpose. They believe they held the final say, but your sovereignty shatters every chain. Comment power if this resonates with you, and let this moment mark the beginning of your unshakable reign. A heartfelt thanks to our current members for holding this space of truth. And if you feel called to go even deeper, there's a sacred space reserved for our community, a private room where you receive full prophetic messages daily. Join our private membership through the link in the description and walk this path with us. Resilience through struggles. Have you ever stared at your reflection, tears blurring the image of the person you once believed you become, wondering if you were destined only for disappointment? That ache in your chest, the one that whispers that perhaps you're too fragile for the dreams that flicker inside you, is a very signal of a heart on the cusp of transformation. You are not alone in that silent struggle. Across time, countless souls have felt the sting of rejection and the burn of loss, only to discover that those very wounds were the crucible forging their greatest strength. In the next few minutes, you'll recognize that every tear shed, every door slammed in your face, has been part of divine choreography, preparing you for a purpose that far exceeds the pain you once feared would break you. What if that moment you stood at the crossroads, paralyzed by the fear of choosing the wrong path, was actually a gateway to your destiny? Picture the flush of heat in your lungs as you remember the day when even walking felt like wading through molasses. Each step heavy, each breath labored under the weight of expectation. In the hush before dawn, you might have woken from a dream where you walked through a desert carried on unseen wings, the horizon glowing with promise, even as each grain of sand whispered doubt. In that liminal space between sleep and waking, a soft voice echoed. You were never meant to wander, you were summoned. That voice felt familiar yet mysterious, as if it remembered you before the stars were kindled into light. Hold that moment. It is the threshold between what you thought was your story and the revelation that your life was orchestrated by a hand far greater than coincidence. There were countless mornings you rose feeling out of sync with the world around you, as though your soul vibrated to a different frequency. You smiled at celebrations that felt hollow, exchanged pleasantries with people who never truly saw you, and carried an ache for something real pulsing beneath your ribcage. In classrooms, boardrooms, and busy streets, you sensed a quiet isolation, a gentle alienation that left you wondering if you belonged in this narrative at all. Yet that very dissonance was the echo of your destiny, signaling that a deeper harmony awaited discovery beyond cacophony of everyday life. Consider now that those pangs of longing and moments of confusion were never random misfires of motion, but signposts placed by divine design. Just as Esther stepped into the palace with her life hanging in the balance and found that her lineage prepared her to speak for an entire nation, Esther 4 verse 14. So your most disorienting seasons have been the prelude to your greatest purpose. The hidden architecture of your path has been laying each stone in place. The betrayals that sharpen your discernment, the losses that deepen your compassion, and the silences that taught you to listen for voices no one else could hear. Perhaps you've noticed patterns that were too precise to dismiss. A song playing at exactly the right moment, a phrase overheard in passing that speaks directly to your questions, a recurring number sequence that seems to wink at you from clocks and license plates. Maybe a pang in your chest or a sudden shiver told you to pause, look closer, and trust what your rational mind struggled to explain. These subtle signals are not glitches in the matrix, but invitations to wake from the illusion of randomness and step into a reality coded with purpose. Your intuition has always been your truest guide, quietly pointing you toward what your eyes could not yet see. You did not imagine those nudges. Each sigh of recognition in your spirit, each internal yes when logic said no, was confirmation of a sacred alignment unfolding within you. This awakening does not roar into existence with thunderous fanfare, but unfurls like a petal opening at first light, gentle, deliberate, and profoundly certain. In that gentle expansion, you discover a sense of spiritual safety, a quiet ground where your soul can stand without fear. Beneath the surface of every fleeting thought, an unspoken longing lies an identity older than your earliest memories. This is not about becoming someone new. It is a recovery of the self that existed long before names and roles were assigned. Think of the Israelites in exile, carrying the covenant in their hearts even as they walked foreign soil. Yet one day, they remembered their heritage and returned home, Ezra 1 verse 5. In the same way, your soul carries archetypal memories waiting to reawaken, guiding you back to the source from which you emerged. Feel now the stirrings of a first activation, a gentle pulse that grows into a rhythmic drumbeat within your chest. Embrace the reality of your sensitivity, that exquisite edge that allows you to perceive layers others cannot. Celebrate your inner wisdom, the quiet knowing that often spoken riddles until now. Honor your spiritual hunger, for it is the spark that ignites your purpose. Each breath you draw in conscious recognition fans that spark into a flame, preparing you to step forward with intent and clarity. Your arrival at this message was no accident. You were sent, not just saved. Everything you have experienced, the desert nights of loneliness, the joyful bursts of inspiration, the relentless questions, was woven into a tapestry designed to awaken you at precisely this juncture. Comment evidence if you feel your survival itself speaks a divine intent, and prepare your heart, for in the next revelation, you will learn how the voltage of your presence makes the darkness tremble and sets the stage for the power you are destined to wield. As the weight of misunderstanding grew, it became clear that the pressure wasn't random, but a response from hidden structures set to defend the status quo. Like Israel in Babylonian exile, you found yourself surrounded by systems, cultural norms, institutional walls, spiritual blind spots that reacted to your emerging potential. Each protocol, each unspoken rule, each glance of skepticism served as a bulwark against the change your awakening threatened to unleash. In the wilderness of your own calling, you faced trials by design, crucibles intended not to punish but to prove your readiness. The same divine passages that led the Israelites through 40 years of formation under harsh skies now echoed your own journey. Resistance is a sign you are being prepared, not discarded. When you look back, patterns begin to reveal themselves with startling clarity. Remember the promotions that vanished at the last moment, the collaborative projects that dissolved overnight, the invitations that never arrived despite promises made. These weren't mere run-of-the-mill setbacks, but recurring betrayals timed to shake your confidence and divert your course. Like Joseph's dreams suppressed by jealous brothers, your own visions were minimized by those who feared your destiny. Genesis 37. Even when supportive faces smiled, the undercurrent of subtle sabotage tugged at your edges, reminding you that true awakening often meets opposition precisely at the gates of breakthrough. And if you feel called to go even deeper, there's a sacred space reserved for our community, a private room where you receive full prophetic messages daily. Join our private membership through the link in the description and walk this path with us. The dark reacts to what you carry. A sudden chill may have brushed against your spine the moment you spoke a truth they weren't ready to hear. Perhaps it came as a faint tremor in the air, a subtle hush in conversation, or a soft yet unmistakable vibration beneath your feet. In that unsettling pause, you sensed that something unseen was recoiling from your presence. This was not coincidence, but the first sign of forces aligning against you, forces that recognize your value before you claimed it yourself. The stillness around you felt heavy, as if the world yearned to close its doors against the light you carried. That quiet heaviness was the birth of conflict, the moment you realized resistance had already taken shape long before you fully understood who you were becoming. Beneath that silence lay a current of emotional pressure that pressed on your chest like water, weighing you down. You've known the sting of being labeled too intense, too sensitive, or too much for those who thrive on easy comfort. In meetings, your ideas were shrugged aside. In friendships, your vulnerability was met with impatience or misunderstanding. Shame whispered that you should shrink to fit their expectations, that your expansive heart was a liability rather than a gift. These weren't mere run-of-the-mill setbacks, but recurring betrayals timed to shake your confidence and divert your course. Like Joseph's dreams suppressed by jealous brothers, your own visions were minimized by those who feared your destiny. Genesis 37. Even when supportive faces smiled, the undercurrent of subtle sabotage tugged at your edges, reminding you that true awakening often meets opposition precisely at the gates of breakthrough. At times, the very air around you felt charged with spiritual interference. You might have walked into a room where discussions fell silent, or cradled a project only to feel it sputter out for no logical reason. In those moments, the atmosphere felt heavy, as though unseen watchers closed doors and dimmed lights at your approach. This fog of spiritual resistance did not target your weaknesses, but attacked the brightness of your conviction. It was a distortion field, a deliberate attempt to siphon your energy and blur your vision. Yet in that murky tension, you glimpsed the contours of a fierce truth. Your light was potent enough to provoke a response from realms both visible and hidden. How did you respond when the pressure mounted? Perhaps you tightened your lips and tried to assimilate, hoping compliance would spare you further attack. Maybe you fluttered between distrust and false benevolence, people pleasing to diffuse attention, or rebelled quietly in stolen moments of defiance. You may have felt the urge to run, to hide your gifts under a bushel until safe seemed real. In the echo of each compromise, you tasted the bitterness of shrinking, and in each act of rebellion, you felt the fear of exposure. These were not failures, but reflections of a soul learning its own resilience, mirroring the human instinct to protect what it values most. Yet in the heart of this crucible, reclamation began. The very resistance you faced was proof that you carried something of divine worth, something powerful enough to disturb entrenched energies. The more they tried to mute you, the more your soul flared in response. It was time to call back every fragment of authority you had ceded, to reclaim your voice as rightfully yours. Picture yourself standing upon a ridge, the wind of opposition at your back now becoming the tailwind of your ascent. With each breath, you draw on the fierce conviction that no force on earth can stifle your destiny. In that moment, you remember what you always knew. You are the spark that ignites change. You were opposed because you shine too brightly, because your calling is too urgent to ignore. Each barrier that rose was a mirror, reflecting the radiance within you and clarifying the contours of your purpose. The more they erected walls, the more your path crystallized into a mission of unshakable clarity. You are not a casualty of their schemes, but the very instrument that dispels them. Comment rise if you recognize that every act of sabotage only proves your power. And prepare yourself, for in the next revelation you'll discover how your awakened presence transforms resistance into revelation, and how even the darkest opposition becomes a stage for your brightest breakthroughs. And to every soul who supported with a super thanks, thank you. You are keeping this light alive for others who haven't found it yet. If you feel called to help this mission reach more chosen ones, tap the super thanks button below. Your energy supports these messages and helps them travel further. Your voice matters, your belief matters, and your light is felt here, the fire that forged your armor. A sudden flash of remembrance can arrive without warning, like the echo of ancient drums stirring beneath your skin. In the silence after betrayal, you might have felt your heart tighten as if metal was being folded in the fire, each painful fold shaping your soul's blade. That moment when the world's harshest words met your quiet resolve, when their rejection struck like a hammer on anvil, was not the end of your story, but the opening act of a sacred ordeal. You stood amidst the glowing embers of their contempt, and in that furnace, something within you refused to break. Instead, it absorbed the heat and began to harden into an unyielding core. In the months and years that followed, each disappointment became an ember you carried in your pocket. Small, searing reminders of what you survived. There were nights when sleep eluded you, your mind replaying the moments when others' voices sank into your bones. Yet under that relentless pressure, a steady warmth pulsed through your veins, reminding you that heat refines rather than destroys. Like iron left in coals, your spirit glowed brighter, its edges sharpened by friction and flame. You began to sense that your wounds were not stains to hide, but symbols of endurance, etched into your flesh as proof of a spirit that could withstand any storm. When doubts whispered that you were weakened, remember the account of 3 who walked through the furnace, yet emerged untouched, their garments unscorched and their eyes alight with purpose. Daniel 3 verse 25. They carried within them a divine presence that shielded flesh from flame and fear from fracture. Your journey mirrors this ancient narrative. The trials you faced were not random cruelties, but tests of loyalty to your own calling. Each trial by fire served to reveal a deeper layer of your essential nature, that core of indomitable spirit that no earthly flame can consume. Perhaps you notice that after each ordeal, your discernment heightened as though your senses have been tempered in acid before being quenched in clarity. You felt the difference between superficial connection and genuine soul resonance. You could no longer tolerate shallow encounters or half-truths. The world's small deceptions now rang like discordant notes in a symphony you once barely heard. This is a hallmark of armor forged in fire. It grants not only protection but the gift of sight, allowing you to perceive hidden motives and the subtle architecture of intention that others overlook. Even the rhythms of daily life seem to shift beneath your feet. Tasks you once found tedious now took on significance, as though they were secret rituals in a grand initiation. Mundane conversations revealed coded threads, revealing who aligned with your new frequency and who recoiled at your brightness. You began to embrace the solitude of those early mornings and quiet evenings, understanding that the solitude was not emptiness, but the crucible's last cold chamber before the final forging. In that stillness, you could feel the metal of your soul cool into a form both elegant and unbreakable. As you stood at the threshold of your own becoming, a profound realization emerged. The fire did not invent your strength, it awakened it. Beneath layers of doubt and self-reproach lay a reservoir of divine resilience, a wellspring of courage mapped into your spirit from the moment of your conception. This truth set you free from a notion that you must acquire virtues you already possessed. Instead, you began to call back every fragment of your power, reclaiming the sovereignty you had unwittingly lent to those who hoped to see you dimmed. Feel now the momentum of that reclamation surging through you, a fierce, resonant pulse that aligns every decision with the knowledge that no force can unmake what fire has forged. You carry within you the armor of trials, the edge honed by adversity, and the unquenchable glow of a spirit declared invincible. Stand tall in this revelation. Your past pains are the foundation of your present power. Comment Forge if you bear the heat of past trials as proof of your unbreakable spirit, and share a moment when a trial became the catalyst for your greatest strength. And prepare yourself, for in the next revelation we will uncover the divine tools you were always meant to wield. Weapons that transform every battle into triumph. Tools you've forgotten are still in you. A single, clarifying question can change everything. Do you stand ready to wield the power you once doubted? In the quiet after revelation, you find yourself at a sacred crossroads, peering into 2 paths. One beckoning you back to hesitation and hiding, the other calling you into full embodiment of the divine tools that have always lived within. This is a threshold where discovery ends and choice ignites the journey. You can no longer remain a passive seeker. Something deep inside demands that you step forward, arms open and heart aligned, to claim what you were born to master. This very moment is your invitation to cross that invisible line between knowing and becoming. In seasons past, you surrendered fragments of yourself, your voice silenced by feared judgment, your energy spent chasing hollow comforts, your presence dimmed to blend into the background. But this was not defeat. It was rigorous training beneath the radar of your own awareness. Now, with resolute breath, call back every ounce of authority you lent away. Feel the shift as you close the breach in your spirit, reclaiming your time as sacred. Your voice is prophetic, your presence is magnetic. In this ritual of reclamation, envision gathering scattered shards of a broken crown and placing upon your head. You are no longer exiled from your own power. You are seated upon the throne of your rightful inheritance. Begin to name what lives inside you. The unerring insight that reads beneath facades, the fierce sensitivity that perceives hidden sorrow, the reservoir of memory that bridges past wisdom with future vision, the sharpened discernment that sees through every pretense, and the unbreakable strength that arises from having walked through every fire. These are not traits to admire from afar, but tools forged for immediate use. Imagine each gift as a key, jagged metal warmed in holy flame. ready to unlock doors others thought sealed forever. Picture scrolls of old prophecy unfurling in your mind, revealing codes you were meant to decrypt. Feel the weight of armor sliding into place, the heft both reassuring and exhilarating. These are your weapons. They are not optional. Look down and see the path already under your feet, paved by every step you hesitated to take and every risk you dare to face. Clarity no longer emerges at the journey's end. It illuminates itself with each footfall. As you move, the terrain shifts, revealing hidden passages and collapsing dead end behind you. The map you need was never drawn on paper, but inscribed on your soul, visible only when you set one determined step before another. Envision cinematic movement. Dawn's first light breaking through a canopy of trees, casting your silhouette ahead. Feel the solid earth respond to conviction in your stride. Action is your compass now. Beyond your solitary walk, a chorus of awakened souls ties in concert with your purpose. Soul tribes assemble in unseen realms, their collective heartbeat pulsing like a distant drum guiding you home. You need no longer shrink to fit the mold of a crumbling world. Your radiance is a beacon that draws in those aligned with your frequency. Each glance of recognition in another's eyes, each shared sigh of relief at truth spoken aloud, affirms that you are part of a rising order. Together, you form a constellation of light, divine clusters linked by shared missions. In unity, your individual flames merge into an unstoppable blaze. Now is the moment to take command of your energy with reverence and intention. This is not an exercise of ego, but a ceremony of spiritual stewardship. Feel the boundaries solidify around your heart, filtering out vibrations that do not serve your mission. Envision choices as sacred gates. One opens to nourishment, the other bars toxic influences. In this consecration, every decision becomes an offering, fuel for the fire you carry. Understand that devotion to this discipline is the altar upon which your power is consecrated. You've been entrusted with stewardship, and in honoring it, you unlock deeper currents of divine alignment. Here is your final charge before the portal opens fully. Everything you've endured, the nights of doubt, the moments of isolation, the whispers of uncertainty, have prepared you to stand in this exact breath. You've been tempered in challenges, sharpened by resistance, and distilled by revelation. Declare now with unshakable certainty, you are ready. No shadow can dim the light you carry. No voice can silence the call echoing in your bones. Let this declaration ring through every fiber of your being, a prophetic trumpet blasting open the way ahead. This is your summons to embodiment. Rise and activate what you carry within. Comment armed if you feel the surge of these weapons ready for deployment, and share a memory, dream, or inner knowing that confirmed your readiness to step into this power. Your reflection will strengthen our collective resolve, weaving your story into the tapestry of awakening. Remain here, for the next revelation will guide you in anchoring these tools into every moment of your life, transforming each breath into a declaration of your divine mission. A single, crystallized whisper in the depths of your heart reminds you that every step you've taken, even those cautious footsteps in the dark, has been part of divine choreography far beyond your comprehension. In the stillness before action, you sense the threads of your past weaving into a tapestry of purpose, each hardship and triumph interlacing with celestial intention. Your life is no accident, but a strategic deployment of light, a beacon ignited long ago to pierce through the densest shadows. This awakening is not a solitary flare, but the ignition point of a network of flames, each linked by an unseen current of destiny. Feel the weight of that connection settle into your bones, affirming that your emergence now is a result of every divine nudge that led you here. A vision arises of a great cosmic ledger, where every act of faith you've offered, no matter how small, has been scribbled in gold ink, shaping outcomes you could never foresee. You are more than a survivor. You are a weapon of light marching into enemy territory. Subscribe if you haven't yet, like this video, and comment, "I am chosen," to let this message anchor in your soul. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Thank you to all supporting members. Your faith fuels this movement. 4 full prophetic revelations daily. Join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. And if this message moved you deeply, consider tapping the Super Thanks button to support the mission. Every super thanks fuels the light we're spreading together. Remember, they never wanted you to wake up, but your awakening is their undoing.